Good evening. Well, at least it's evening where I am. I'm Dr. Chris Zimmer, and I just want to do a short video for you and add on to what I've done the last time. And it does have something to do with the Luke, I am your father. There's a bit of that in here. And also, make way for the 524 Arpazo. So, starting with when the moon occulted Venus, this is still our flagstone, on 4/7/24, the day before the April 8th eclipse. This gives us a day count, 47 days, and it also gives us a time, 8:53:23 a.m. So we're still hanging on that. And if you look at the 84-week timeline, most of this we don't have to pay attention to now because it was pointing inwards towards April 8th, except there is one thing that I happen to notice, and that is this 125-day count. The 125 days, of course, represents us, the church. We are in those edge angles of New Jerusalem City, if you do the calculations. And it's also indicative of Revelation 12:5, where the child is caught up to heaven, to God, and to his throne. And on the left side, you'll see it ends at a 12:5 date. So that's anchored at 12:5, which is telling us that Revelation 12:5. If we go to the right, you'll see that 125 days takes us to a very strange date, 8/11. And it turns out the population of the earth right now is 8.111 billion people, I believe. So we're looking at 8/11. So this Revelation 12:5, or the child being caught up, should happen at a world population of 8/11. And I'll come at it from a different angle a little bit later on, but right now I just wanted to show you where it was in the day counts on the 84-week timeline. So if we take out some of the clutter, the last time we did this, looking at the 4/7 moon occulting Venus, if we count forward that 47 days, we come to 5/24, and that's the prospective date of the rapture. And if we count backwards 46 days, that takes us to the eclipse, and then we have a 46-day count on either side, but we have an uneven count of months and days. We have 1 month 17 days on one side and 1 month 16 days on the other. Well, if we want to confirm that 5/24 date, we can count forward 531 days to 11/6/2025, and that confirms the 116, or the 1 month 16 days. 11/6 looks like 1 month 16 days. So we confirm that date, and I was telling you last time that I thought the 46 days was a chromosome count. In other words, this is alluding to who is going to go on the rapture, human beings with a 46 chromosome count, and then there are some with 47 that have Down's syndrome. So we've got, God is trying to tell us, I think, that he's going to be inclusive of everybody that's a human being. I mean, everyone has a chance to go on the rapture, 46 chromosomes or 47 chromosomes, and that's part of the answer, but I think there's another one too. In the next slide, I'll show you just a moment. But we have 160 days till the end. That takes us to Halloween this year, and there's 22 weeks, 6 days, 22 number of heaven, 6 the number of man, so man representing man in heaven, and then another 160-day count on the other side of the April 8th eclipse, taking us to Halloween last year, saying, yes, you have a valid day count here. We also have 84 weeks for the full stretch, all the way from Nisan 1 last year to Halloween this year. And then if we add in the 48-week count from Nisan 1 last year to 2/22, which is the first of the 46-day counts, then we put those back to back, 48 weeks and 84 weeks, we get 4884. Well, in Strong's, 4884 is sin arpazo, which means caught, and one of its usages is to seize by force and carry away. So this is a very perfect way of saying the rapture. And if we go back to the 160-day count, the 160 days takes us to unawares and sudden. So now we have the word sudden and unchangeable. both from the 160-day count and the 531-day count, sudden and unchangeable, which describes the rapture. And I was getting those two words about a year ago when I was looking at the signs in the heavens. So this looks like it's somehow coming full circle. And let's look at that 46-day count and 47-day count again, because it shows up somewhere else. If we look at Abba and Jesus, the words in Strong's, Strong's is G5 for Abba or Father, and Strong's G2424 is Jesus, Jehovah is salvation. Well, there are two verses that those day counts show up in: Galatians 4:6 or 46 days. And it says, "And because you are sons, God has sent forth the Spirit of His Son into your hearts, crying out, Abba, Father." And then if we go to Galatians 4:7 for the 47-day count, we get, "Therefore you are no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of God through Christ." So this is not Jesus here, or actually it is, but it's the word is Christ. And it's what I think it's doing here is it's solidifying that 47-day count, because the first part of it, 55, is the number from edge angles of New Jerusalem City that represents Jesus. Revelation 5:5 is where he's shown worthy to open the seals once he's, resurrected and ascends into heaven. Well, if we insert Jesus here, because we already have one that confirms the day count, and we know Christ is Jesus, so let's insert Jesus, which is G2424, and we've got one verse with Father, and the other verse was Jesus, and we can put those two together to actually get the rapture date. And that's Abba 5, Jesus 24:24. Well, if we put those together, we get the date 5/24/24. Last time we looked at these verses, 5 verses that speak of Jesus coming as a thief. This kind of sets up the theme, because as a thief is linked to a robbery, and in police code a robbery is 211, and of course this was looking at Pentecost, which is Iyyar 11 or 211. So now we've got a theme. And then if we look at 211 some more, we see in Luke 24, the first time Satan is robbed, this is two men announce Jesus' resurrection. And the verses 4 through 7 give us an acrostic, 4, 5, 6, 7, which is Satan. So, and 8, 9, if we continue, we get without ceasing, because what Jesus did on the cross for us is unceasing. And we count from verse 4 to verse 9, we see 2:11. So there's that theme, there's that robbery theme and Satan. So Satan is the one getting robbed, and this was the first time when Jesus was resurrected. If Satan had known what was going to happen, he probably wouldn't have Jesus put to death. And then, of course, in Luke 2:11 and 20:24, we have born this day. That's the child being born, of course. 2:11 is the robbery, and it's going to take place in 2024. We have metaphors for booty and prize in the money, and we have a metaphor for Satan in Caesar, and we have a metaphor in robbery in the ownership of the money. Okay, so that sets us up for Luke 17, which I actually found some more. Remember I said last time there's an awful lot here to look at, and let's go over what we already have. In the first 3 verses from 34 to 37, we have 3 times that we have a total of 2 people, where one is taken and the other one is left. So we get 3 times that we have the numbers 2:11. And of course we already know now that Jesus was the first time that Satan was robbed. So we're looking at the second time now. That would be the rapture. So let's see, Luke 17. Okay, Luke contains 24 chapters. This alludes to the year 2024. The meaning of 17 is that of overcoming the enemy in complete victory. And then there's also an acrostic here. There's a 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, we have Satan, and we have this 2:11, or this theme of Satan being robbed. And then vertically, we have the 222 and the 111s, and those were 40-day counts from April 8th eclipse. So there's a lot of information here, but we can go even further. So let's go to the 5 on that verse 35. There's a 5 and then 2 women. So we've got a 5 and a 2. And then we have 2 men in the other 2 verses for a total of 4 men. So now we have 5, 2, 4. And then if we look at the 24 chapters, we get the year 2024. Put it all together and we get 5, 2, 4, 2, 4, like this. So we actually do have what looks like the rapture date in this verse as well, in this set of verses. And we also show Satan being robbed 3 times. And last time I said, Jesus was in the first one. That was the first robbery. Second one is going to be the rapture of the church. The third one, I think, is going to be the redemption of the Jews at the end of the 7-year tribulation, but that remains to be seen. 211 in progress. We have 4 harpazo-like words from 724 to 727 that indicate a robbery, and then one of them even says a booty and a prize, mentions what's going to be taken. And then, of course, that's another acrostic, 4, 5, 6, 7. So Satan's involved. So there's a robbery and Satan involved. He's the one getting robbed. And then we also have Strong's G72, manner of life. And then it points us to a verse where it tells us what type of life we're supposed to be Christ-like. And this is with purpose, faith, long-suffering, charity, patience, and so on. Okay, this was in the news, and this is, I think, is tied into what we're looking at right now. It says California residents erupt after the state can't account for $24 billion. Well, this is a story that came out in May. So we've got a theme of May and 24, 5/24. The money is missing, so we're looking at this, wondering, is this a robbery? Was this money stolen? And so on and so forth, but a very timely article. And we're still looking at Ichthus on that day, on 5/24 at 8:53:23 a.m. We still have a planetary lineup, and we still have 2 comets, the Aubers and the Pons Brooks. And this is still an Ichthus in the sky. And all these are visible all the way to Pluto on the right-hand side, from the sun to Pluto, in the field of view in Stellarium, if you kind of squish the image down. This is the really interesting one. This blew me away when I found this. If we look in Taurus, if we zoom in a little bit, we can see that the sun is on the line on that day on 5/24, but it's not at 8:53. It's at 8:11:24 roughly. The seconds are a little bit elusive, but if you go 8:11, which is the population, 8.11 billion people, corresponds to that time. That's exactly, or pretty much exactly, when that sun is centered on the line between 2 stars, Atlas and Secunda Hyactum in Taurus. So let's go through that. Atlas is 27 Tauri. That's a triple star system. Here it actually says double star, but if you look it up, it's I guess it's since been reclassified to a triple star system. And what I think this represents is the Holy Trinity and the world, since associated with both 8:53. That's also the time that the sun will be on that line, and 8:11. And then the other star is Secunda Hyactum, Delta 1 Tauri. This is the second of the Hyades. And it's funny that the word Hades is within that Hyades. And this is a double star. So this is representing 2 twice in the name and also in the double star. And I think what this represents is twice now. If this occurs, the rapture occurs, just after this, on this day, it'll be twice that Satan is robbed. So this is positively amazing. You can zoom in, and you can see that it's pretty much centered right on the line at 8:11:24, 8.11, indicating 8.11 billion people in the world. What's even more interesting, I think, is that it's still on the line but kind of offset at 8:53:23. So it's almost like breaking the line at 8:11. So now we're at 8:53:23. We've gone a little bit past that, and it's essentially broken the line, so to speak. And is our estimate of the rapture still in effect? It looks like, this is just a fun estimate, but 1.44 billion raptured and 6.66 billion people left behind at that point. And it's still, if you don't do any rounding, the numbers still work out. And also, if you look at the difference between those two times, 8:53 and 8:11, you get a difference of 41 minutes, 59 seconds. Well, that's near 42 minutes. So is this also indicating that the first 42 months of the tribulation are about to start? I thought that was rather interesting too. It's like a twofer on this one. Okay, and then if you go forward, this is just something interesting I thought I would throw in. I noticed that on 10/2, which is the start of Yom Teruah this year, the comet C2023A3 Tzu Chinshan Atlas is approaching Virgo. And then it's still there at the end of Yom Teruah on 10/4. I just threw that time in there as kind of random because it's already should play out for the rapture, but by this time it's just a reminder. But that comet is pretty much in the same position at the end of Yom Teruah, but if we go a few days forward, it starts to move quickly. Now it's in the body of Virgo, just like the Jupiter was 7 years before in 2017. So it's like indicating another birth. And this is on 10:10. And remember, we were looking at numbers 10:10 and 10:11, and that gave us the numbers 202 overlapping with 22. So that's the finished product. That's us being raptured to heaven. You add all the numbers together, and 22 indicates heaven. And if you go forward one more day to 10:11, which is indicative of numbers 10:11, then you can see that child is born. So this is almost like saying there's going to be another birth, perhaps 7 years down the road, 6 years, 7 years at the end of the tribulation. I don't know if the days are going to be cut short and then it's 6 years, or, I'm not going that far into the future. I'm just looking at a rapture date. But this is rather interesting. It's like a message to Israel. And if you can see, Venus is in Libra. Jesus is in heaven with us by this time, hopefully. And it's below the horizon. So Israel cannot see this on this date. All they can see is the birth of this comet. And Tzu Chinshan, I believe, means purple mountain. So we've got this Atlas tie to the, what I just showed you a moment ago. You had Atlas, the star that was on the line that was being broken by the sun, indicating rapture. But there's a tie in Atlas to this comet. So it's, it's kind of like saying, look back at that and look forward to this. They're tied together by Atlas. And I'm not quite sure what the purple mountain means. But anyway, I thought that was rather interesting. This is all going to happen later on this year. So how many estimated to be raptured? We've already done this. Just wanted to recap Christina's dream. 725 was there, but no one could find 811. And this, I believe now, indicates the world population plummets from 8.11 billion people, which it is right now, after the rapture. And what was it today? A little earlier, 2:25 p.m. Today is May 22nd, and this is what the current world population is. Now that 8110 has moved to 8111, so we had a 110 moving to a 111, just like those day counts, the 40-day counts from the April 8th eclipse. And then we also turned 8111 for 3 days, if you count from 521 when it started to 524, which means it'll be 8111 for 3 days, And that kind of sounds reminiscent of On the Third Day. Again, Christina's dream interpretation revised. The rapture causes a sudden drop from a world population of 8.11 billion people. At least that's what it looks like now. And then here are the time zones. Here's what, if it really does occur, this is what it should be in Israel and the U.S. and Mexico, given these time zones. And it looks like it's all one day in the world at that. I'm sorry, not in the world, but in these places, in these locations, it's one day. But it's actually one day forward in the old Orient. If you look at, Tokyo, Japan, you look at Auckland, New Zealand, that area, all that's on the other side of the international date line, so that will be 525. So it's going to be 525. In fact, it'll be the same time as the West Coast. In Sydney, Australia, it should be 8:53:23 a.m., but on 525. So 2 days in the world, 524 and 525, but this time it looks like there's only one day between Israel and the U.S. Those places will be 524. So that's all I have for you. Looking forward to it. I hope this is it. Crossing our fingers. God bless you all.